There are only 3 lenses that beginner photographers actually need. And no, I'm not gonna say something like get a 17 to 28, 24 to 70, and a 70 to 200 like everybody else says. In fact, one of these lenses is going to surprise you a lot. Hey, what's up guys? My name's David Johnston. This is the Landscape Photography University channel where we help you take photos that actually excite you. So if you're into that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. Let's get into the first lens, and that's an ultra wide angle lens. Now, I'm not just saying wide angle lens. I want you to get an ultra wide angle lens, because what this does is it actually gives you a little bit more wide look than your typical wide angle lens. This is a Fujifilm 16 to 55. So on a camera like this is going to look pretty wide, especially with full frame or medium format cameras. Now, if you don't have the money to get one of these, like a 16 to 55 f2.8 lens, which is a great lens to get, you can use just your standard lenses of something like a 17 to 28 or a prime lens of like a 12 or a 16 millimeter. What this is going to do is it gives you a lot of room on the edges and in the foreground of your photos, especially if you're using your camera in a vertical format. Now, I think using an ultra wide angle lens instead of a wide angle lens is great. And I like the zoom lenses too, because it allows me to zoom to the right spaces instead of doing something like moving my tripod around or moving my feet with a prime lens. A zoom lens is really going to give you that extra depth, but a prime lens is going to be cheaper. Now, if you can't afford something like a name brand lens like Fujifilm, or even if you're like me and you want to save a couple $100s, look for lenses like Tamron or Sigma, some of your third-party lenses. And I'm not sponsored by MPB.com, but they do a great job in selling used equipment with some really rigorous testing to be sure that everything they sell back to somebody is really high quality. You can also make some money selling your gear to them if you want to do that too. Now, the second lens we have is a 70 to 200. I do think the 70 to 200 is an essential lens for landscape photographers, especially beginners, because unlike the ultra wide angle lens, what happens with the 70 to 200 is you get a lot of compression with this lens. Now, the ultra wide angle lens really accentuates the edges, the tops, the bottoms of your foregrounds, of your photos, because of the ultra wide look that it gives. This does the opposite. It compresses far distances together. Think about something like mountain ridges that are stacked together in a photo so that you can photograph them going off endlessly into the distance. This is the lens for that. Now, let me tell you why I recommend the f4 for landscape photography instead of the f2.8. Yes, the f2.8 is a faster lens than this one, but landscape photographers typically never go below f8. Even if you are going below f8, you're not looking for a ton of blur in your landscape photography. So why get an f2.8 if you're never even going below f8? Go for the f4 because it's going to save you a couple $100, and it is slightly lighter than the f2.8 because there's less glass inside of the f4. So this is a great one to have, and I recommend all photographers get a 70 to 200. If not a 70 to 200, then definitely a telephoto lens, even if it's like the kit lens that you got with your camera that's a 55 to 250. Use that one as much as possible to try to seclude out small details in your landscape photography. Now, before I get to this lens that's really going to surprise you, I want to invite you to become a member of Landscape Photography University, where we show you how to use all these lenses, how to use your camera, how to use composition the right way. I'm going to offer you a free 7-day trial of a Landscape Photography University membership. That is linked below in the video description for you to check out and in the pinned comment. Let's get to this last lens on the list, and this is a 35 millimeter lens. Why do I think all beginner landscape photographers need to use a 35 millimeter lens? Well, a 35 is basically like that classic film photography look. This is great for photographers who were doing film, maybe they want to get into digital, or photographers who started out in film and now do digital. This lens, the 35 millimeter, is really going to take you back to those film days. I think that this lens is the best lens to learn composition with because it is prime. So you have to work with the composition a little bit more and work with the scene a little bit more to understand how you should place and maneuver your camera and the lens so that you're getting the objects in your photo the right way, in the right order, without overlapping one another, because that's highly important with composition. Now, another great reason that I think this should be on every photographer's list, especially beginner photographers, is the 35mm is a great one to use for small scene photography. So this is designs that are in the landscape, mud tiles. This is for travel photography with like shoes on the wall in the Netherlands or something like that. This lens is great for it because the ultra wide is too wide for that and creates distortion on the corners of the image. This 70-200 or telephoto lens is too zoomed in for anything like that. So you need something that's simple, cost-effective, small, and lightweight to have in your bag. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna argue, hey, why not just get a 24-70? Sure, you could do that, but the 35mm is so much cheaper than a 24-70 and gives you similar looks. Yeah, you're giving up a couple of focal distances with that, but for the most part, I've never been disappointed that I had this lens in my bag instead of a 24-70 that is that classic mid-range look for landscapes that a lot of people tell you to get. You're gonna save a few $100s getting just a prime 35mm rather than those others, and you can always upgrade to one of those others in the future as well. If you want more tips on how you can become a better photographer, click on this playlist showing up on your screen right now.